Boy, there sure was a lot of strange shit going on in 18th century France. I'm John Renton with the retro review of Brotherhood of the Wolf, one of my favorite movies of the 2000s, something that I absolutely loved when I first watched it in theaters. I've watched it multiple times, but it's been a number of years, and I thought, I've never done a full retro review, so I thought I'd cover it and talk about it some 20 years after it came out in theaters. And I have fond memories of this movie. I also have some memories I tried to bury of some stuff that I didn't particularly like, but I'm like, you know what? There were so many positives, let's just hide the negatives. But since this is a retro review and I gotta talk and be totally open and honest about it, there are a few things and a couple of bit of crow's feet that pop up with this movie. Obviously the special effects and a few other things, but this is quite good. It was directed by Christophe Gaines, who did the Silent Hill movie in 2006 and also the 2014 Beauty and the Beast. And it stars Samuel Le Bon, and I'm pretty certain I'm going to mispronounce a lot of these names because I fucking screw up foreign names all the time. He played the main character of Francois. And you had Mark Dacascos, who was Iron Chef America, the host. You know, that guy that always did the that kind of stuff. And he was also in The Crow, Stairway to Heaven, and also in Double Dragon. Yes, he was one of the brothers in Double Dragon. You also had Jeremy Renner. No, not Jeremy Renner, but a pretty good French actor, and also Vincent Cassel, who was playing a creep in the movie. I'm shocked. The guy that was the creepy ballet teacher, dancer thing, whatever the hell he was, the coach, that was very weird around Natalie Portman's character, was a creep in this? It's so shocking. He was also in Crimson Rivers, which was a really terrific movie, and he's a terrific actor as well. And you also had Emile Denouquet. Again, pretty certain I screwed that one up too. She played the character of Marianne, very beautiful woman. And of course, Sylvia, played by Monica Bellucci, who I swear is a fucking goddess. She's ageless, she's beautiful, she's gorgeous, and boy, is Monica Bellucci, does she command your presence or your attention when her presence is on screen. My fucking goodness, she looked goddamn great here, and she was in her later 30s by this point and didn't look it at all, and still doesn't look anywhere close to 60 even now. And goddamn, she was just fucking captivating on camera here. So, if you're unfamiliar with this movie, well, one, get the DVD. I actually ordered this from Canada because it's a French movie, and this was the only, and this is like way back, long time ago, I could only get the single disc version in the US, and I decided, hey, wait a second, French, Canada, 3-disc collection, it cost me $30 years and years ago, and I decided to get it. But if you are unfamiliar, and it's worth every goddamn penny, by the way, but it is also currently streaming on Shudder, which is a terrific horror streaming service. No, I'm not sponsored. Wouldn't mind being sponsored, but no, Shudder is an awesome horror service. It's got a whole bunch of great stuff. This has horror elements. It's also more action-oriented. This came out in later 2001, but also was not released in theaters in the US until January of 2002. So, since again, it's been 20 years, let's talk about the fact it was set in 18th century France, 1764, where a man got on the floor and did the dinosaur. Wait, that was only the dinosaur in the archaic visions of various people, including royalty and various people in powdery wigs and all this stuff. And my God, there was a lot of really weird shit going on in France and all over the world back in 1764 and the 18th century and in general. So we have we have this story being told by by an older version of Jeremiah Renner's character, Diaparcer, who is talking about his he's talking about, you know, the people that he, you know, dealt with way long ago in his younger days. And we flash back to Francois and Manny showing up, and they basically are tasked with hunting this beast that is in a certain province that's isolated in France. And this beast is only targeting women and children. It's not targeting men, but it's just ungodly, it's beastly, it's vicious, it's bigger than any wolf, any monster that anybody has ever seen. People don't call it a wolf, they call it a devil. And okay, Francois and Manny, who are tied together. Mark does play Manny, who is an Indian, and we hear a little bit more about his backstory as things go on. And it's a great action adventure, you know, crazy thing. It does go a little bit overboard on the slow-mo, I will say that, since this was just a couple years after The Matrix, and people got a little bit crazy with the bullet time and slow-mo and stuff like that. And Zack Snyder has pretty much made a goddamn staple of his movies. making them about twice as long as they need to be. Hi, Army of the Dead, didn't fucking see you. This, it has some Matrix type fights, even though you wouldn't think that kind of wire work would be done back in the 1700s. But then again, they did in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon a couple years ago, so who gives a shit? Or a couple years before this, that is. Man, that movie's fucking terrific as well. I should retro-review that. They are, Francois is a guy who, understands science, has been in wars and everything. He's tied to Manny because they have a brotherly bond, because Manny's tribe was killed many, many years before, and he was the only survivor. And for some reason, even though, Grégoire Francois was part of the army, they kind of form a bond, and because Manny saved him, they have this lock, and he can speak with nature. Francois understands science work, and he understands reasoning and everything, despite the fact that a lot of people back in this time were kind of uneducated. So there was one good line that Tomas said, Jeremiah's character. He said, centuries, or, certainties will make men, blind and crazy or whatever. They can devour their hearts and poison their minds and turn them into beasts. So basically, they end up saving this weird Santa French guy or whatever that's supposed to be a healer, and also his very, very gorgeous gypsy daughter, who they save them, and Manny kind of, sees like, oh, she's kind of cute, and obviously these characters will not factor into anything in the movie later. Of course they fucking will. And the guards that were there that were beating them up said, oh, she's a witch, and, he's this and this kind of stuff. And obviously, since they're the heroes of this movie, Francois and Manny, they decide to beat up, the people, because why the fuck wouldn't they? Actually, just Manny does it, because at that point, he's just a one-man wrecking crew. He's a wrecking machine! And then they find out the beast spares no child or woman, runs away from guys, and they talk to one of the survivors, and it's not a wolf, it's a devil. Earlier, there was this woman that was beat up, and it's like she was like, almost like on a frickin' pillar. She was slammed down on the rock. Some violent shit happening in this movie. A lot of violence towards women. I wonder if the director had any issues towards women. And so what ends up happening is they find another dead body. The bodies start to pile up in this particular province, and enter the character of Jean Francois, who is Vincent Cassel's character, and he lost his arm in the war. He's got his arm, obviously his arm's conveniently just placed at the side. They can only do so much, but he does a pretty good job hiding it, and we find out a little bit later why he does this stuff. Marianne is his sister, and boy, does that get brought to light in a very, very creepy way a little bit later. Yes, because if there's one thing that 18th century France was known for, is apparently incest. Oh dear. I will say right now, a bit of a trigger warning, if you are a victim of assault, that kind of assault, that's all I'm going to say right there. You might not like a couple things in this movie. And that's your fair warning right there. I'm not going to get into too many details about it. That goes the same for The Last Duel, which was pretty damn good, but oh boy, oh dear, that particular scene they repeated. So Tomas is, he's a guy that gravitates towards Francois and Manny, and he tells them, oh, there's this reward out, 6,000 pounds of the man that can kill the beast. Kill the beast! And then they go to a they end up having like this weird old UFC. It's Ultimate French Championship cage fighting. Actually, it's just net setup, and Manny decides to fight with a whole bunch of people, including these gypsy women that he only kicks a few times and beats pretty easily. And obviously, again, these gypsy people will not factor into the finish of the movie, except they totally will. My main issue with this movie is obviously the special effects haven't aged all that well. 20 years, that happens. I mean, that's a bit of a minor quibble. My main issue is there are sometimes a few too many things fleshed out in this. Like, this thing is almost 2.5 hours, and I think could have been accomplished in 2 hours. There's some great detail. There's also a few things where I'm like, okay, we really didn't need this. Could we have maybe gone away from this? Now, it does show the wolf eventually. It turns out Jean Francois, he even though he's only got one hand, he can shoot his shot, but he likes to mark his shots, with silver bullets. Boy, that's not any foreshadowing at all. Do get a lot of slow motion nonsense here. They talk to they talk to people in the chapel because they're very devout and very religious. Could have done without the animal abuse. That is one big thing about this. They hunt wolves and everything. I really could have done with that. Now I get why. They're afraid of wolves. They think it's a wolf. They're out hunting anything and stuff like that, and it is what it is. Again, I'm just a bit of a stickler about animal violence. And basically, Francois explains about Manny and what happened and all that, and they're at this old chapel, that's a chapel area that's all covered in moss. Obviously, that will not be, foreshadowed for anything later. And then they go to a French house of ill repute. That's what I will say. A hewer house, if you will. An ore house. I'm choosing my words carefully here because sometimes, the algorithm's a little bit weird about covering up this stuff. But yes, where you pay women for pleasure, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. And he finds Sylvia, a.k.a. Monica Bellucci's character. And let me tell you right now, any guy that gets a chance to be that close to Monica Bellucci, movie or not, they're lucky. I don't know what it is about her, but she's just fucking captivating. One of Italy's best exports, easily. And she kind of has witchy powers and this kind of stuff and basically can read his mind. And also all this time he is trying to get with Marianne, who, is John Francois' sister. And then, of course, we get more stuff with people being attacked and some, good attack parts and some blood. We do get some blood. And this guy ends up, his kids end up getting, attacked and lost in the mountains. He's like, I'm cursed. We are all cursed. You're doomed. You're all doomed. And then they go into the snowy mountains to find the children. They find out the brother's dead, but the sister is very much alive. Maybe, kinda, sorta. She's sort of in a coma. So then we go back to the house of ill repute. That's wordy, but it fits better. And Francois talking to Sylvia, and she says, do you know how that Florentine women keep their husbands at home? Each morning they give them a poison, and each evening they give them an antidote. So if they sleep around, they're going to have a really bad night. It's not a bad idea. Also gives you the idea to maybe, I don't know, not get in a relationship. Also don't cheat. Don't do that. But maybe don't get in a relationship, because you never know who's going to try to fucking poison you. And there's another guy, Antoine, a guy that came in because Francois apparently was taking forever. Apparently the carrier pigeon carrying the letters didn't fucking work, but also this was back when cell phones, no phones, barely, no electricity, nothing was invented. So you had to just trust that somebody would take about 18 years to kill something. Since they couldn't find it, he sent this guy who tried to abuse a woman that was pouring him a hot bath. Because France, am I right? Nothing against people in France, actually. It's just, it seems like they tried to make so many of these people that were royalty or military or whatever as disgusting as possible. Which probably isn't the worst thing according to history, because women were not really respected back then. And sadly aren't respected nearly as much now as they should be. He finds this wolf, this other guy does, and says, hey, Francois, get together. Get your tools together and make this wolf look cool and everything so we can stop being here and stop wasting the king's dollars. So all this stuff is being told by Tomas's character, by the way. And he tells Sylvia that he is an accomplice to Antoine's deal here. And that, oh no, somebody snuck into her room and stole some drawings that Francois had done of Sylvia, but he'd also done drawings of Marianne because he likes both. But obviously, how could you resist Monica fucking Bellucci? I couldn't. Nobody could. No man, woman could. Anyway, enough about Monica Bellucci. I'll stop gushing about her eventually, except no, I won't. Jean Francois was obviously the person that did this because Vincent Cassel is just that kind of dick. And he wants his sister all to himself. Yes, really, like that. It's disgusting. Then Francois says the beast will kill again, and the king's like, well, that's all right. You don't have to go back there. It's done. It's done. Who cares what happens to that province? We tried. We gave our best effort. We did our best. And then Sylvia visits the church and tells Marianne he only loved one woman, Francois, and that's you. She didn't believe him, and then she did believe him. Bit inconsistent here. And well, then he finds Marianne at a cabin sometimes later, and now they're all happy together, except the fact that the beast, a giant wolfy thing that's covered in armor that looks like it's made out of giant spread out rubber band balls and also blades and teeth blades, because it's a giant wolf, but it's also covered in shit to make it look monstrous. This is where the movie loses a little bit of luster, because it really pumps up like just how this beast looks, and then you see it and you're like, really? Really? But all the while this is going on a little bit earlier, the internal affairs guy for the king, damn internal affairs screwing stuff up since who knows when, tells Francois, hey, you want to go to Africa in 6 months, you can go there. And then we flash forward 6 months and he's going to go there, but then suddenly he gets a letter from Thomas, or from Marianne through Thomas, that says, hey, this is happening and we need to go back. You need to go back on the hunt. Manny, can we go back on the hunt? Yeah, okay. Nothing bad will happen here. And so they do, but he's with Marianne, and then this beast attacks. He kills somebody in the wine cellar, a guy, and then tries to burst, but doesn't kill Marianne. I wonder why. Because Jean-Francois is controlling it. And they basically end up getting away from the beast, even though the beast is clearly fucking just, out for blood at the behest of Jean-Francois. And, well, it turns out that Francois and, Thomas and Manny manage to capture the beast. They wound the beast severely, but it gets away. I mean, it's got that armor, but it gets away. Manny then goes out on his own, and because he's trying to hunt the beast, and all the gypsies, tramps, and thieves decide to attack him. And even though he decides to fight them for whatever reason, they overwhelm him with vastly superior numbers. Not vastly superior intelligence, kind of lazy screenwriting, because they need to give Francois a reason to get upset. So he gets killed and tossed away. And then he goes on a killing spree, which actually is probably one of the best parts of the movie. He dresses up kind of like, Indian-like with the makeup and stuff like that, and goes on a killing spree, killing everybody. He kills man, woman, and, freaking mop bucket there. It's just amazing. He finds a bunch of cultish shit and all this stuff, and what the hell's going on. He puts Manny's body in a ritualistic burning, but then he is knocked out by some guards that tell him, no, you're under arrest. Oh, boop. And then he's taken care of as far as being imprisoned. But then Sylvia comes to call and tells him that there's a secret society that does the work of the church and worships the wolf. Le Pacte des Loups, I believe, is how it's said. Probably totally screwed that up, as I've screwed up every god. I really should have given people simple names here, but I tried to be accurate to the movie, despite not understanding, any French at all. Then again, you don't need to understand French to realize Monica Bellucci. God damn. God fucking damn. Anyway, he gets poisoned in prison, and he dies. Actually, he doesn't. Marianne doesn't believe it. And then Jean-Francois abuses her. Could have done without this. I don't really care if they cut away from that much of it. Really didn't need to see that. I mean, it sort of advanced the plot, but it was like, no, please don't. And then, remember that old, thing covered in moss earlier, that old chapel? Well, now the cult's there. And then Francois shows up, ha ha, I see you, he just names everybody, just points at everybody, ha ha, I know it's you. And then suddenly bullets ring out, and I guess guards are there because we just need to wrap this shit up because this has been going on a while, so Sylvia decides to pull out a blade, katana style, and slash the gypsy girl in her throat. That was pretty goddamn good. While Francois decides to brawl and have a sword fight with Jean-Francois. A lot of characters that have similar names here. I should have just said Vincent and Gregoire, but unfortunately, let's see. Unfortunately, I probably would have even just as Samuel and Vincent, but that just sounds like some kind of weird erotic fiction in France. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It just does sound like that. And he has a fight with him, and it's this sword that has bamboo-ish shit and whatever, and does this and does this. So it turns out his arm's actually perfectly fine, but it's mutated. Why is it mutated? Well, according to Marianne earlier, before she got assaulted, somebody came back other than my brother. Okay, so he ends up dying. Vincent does, that is, by getting a blade through his goddamn stomach, and he says, "Oh, you've reunited us forever." Then the wolves go a maulin'. They decide to go maulin' this one, lone guy that's left out of the goddamn cult. And then he's told Marianne's dying. They rush through all this stuff really quickly after taking 18 fucking years to get through to this point. She's there, and then he uses this magical powder stuff that Manny had used earlier to revive the daughter, to tell of all this stuff going on, the daughter that was in the mountains. And then we smash cut to Tomas basically being taken away by the people that are having a revolution. Viva la revolution. And then we go back to the wolf getting dispatched because it turns out that, well, Jean-Francois brought it back. It was the biggest cub of a litter, and he trained it to be the meanest and everything and this kind of stuff. But that thing was fucking tired and wanted to die. And also it was probably weighed down by all the armor that was on. So Francois decides to shoot it in the head. Smart. Kills it. And then Tomas basically says that he knows that he's going to die, but he hopes that Francois and Marianne had somehow managed to live. And it shows them on a ship, and they're doing all this, and they're happy forever. That's it. That's it for the movie. The movie is by no means perfect, but it is still one of my favorite things. I seemed like I was a little more critical of it than you might have thought, but no, I really do actually love this movie. It's fucking great. It's got great action. It's got some good horror. It's got fucking Monica Bellucci. How could you not love that? Emily, I believe was her name, the one to play Marianne. She's been in some good movies since then as well. And there's just a lot of really good stuff to it. Also, again, the guy from Iron Chef America is a friggin' Indian that, just kills a whole bunch of people. And then also you have Samuel that just goes nuts. And there's some really good stunt work, really good stuff, and a lot of really good meat to this movie that has a few issues. Those are my thoughts. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.